The Western Mojave Desert is one of the least biodiverse places in America, and my plans are to bring back the biodiversity just one plant at a time. My name is Joseph, and I'm so passionate about the earth that I purchased 3 acres of land in the high mountain deserts of California with the sole purpose of rebuilding the biodiversity and bringing back the balance. And for the past year, I have been on an adventure that I've been documenting in these vlogs where I learned the land, how to utilize what's around me, and most importantly, the history of the land. I learned that generations ago, this place was once crawling with life, from the wildflowers to the fauna to the springs that were available, and the native peoples, the Chemehuevi, once coexisted on this land. As colonization spread, the native people and animals were driven off of the land, while cattle ranchers and non-native farm animals were driven into it. When you add in overdevelopment and military bases, you get the land that we have now. So here I am at a neighborhood garden store, and I'm looking for some desert native plants. And boy, did they have a selection. I was here for about an hour trying to quickly do research on everything that I was unfamiliar with. And they had so many beautiful plants like this yucca here and this one that kind of reminds me of rosemary. So I had to do deeper digging into this and see where the native range was because I was obsessed. This one as well, I am looking for more woodier plants because these are the plants that are going to be resistant to droughts. These are the plants that are okay with drying up a little bit. I ended up buying 2 desert mallows because they're native to the land, and also the orange flowers were just gorgeous. The other one was called a woolly blue curl, which isn't native to the Western Mojave, but it is native to Southern California, and it is not invasive, so why not? But my real goal is to get one of these majestic cactuses right here. Now, the adventure did not stop because I was really in search of some trees, so I called around and I found another local store, which is actually one of my absolute favorites. It is called Armstrong Garden Center. And it's the springtime, so you know they're going to be popping off with all types of bright flowers and colors for you to plant. And no, this video is not sponsored by them. This is a store that I go to personally all the time. I mean, look at this place. It's just a paradise for any gardener or any farmer. However, it came with some disappointment as this manzanita was the only one that was native to my land. However, it was entirely too big for me to fit in my small little Prius. So I had to get creative and find something else. And although they had a large selection of native plants, so many of them were for the coastal regions, none really suited for the desert besides a couple. But luckily for me, I was able to snag these 2 poppies that my wife absolutely loves, so they are going to be dedicated to her. And of course, I found another desert mallow, but this one looked a little different from my other ones. This one had a lot more hair, and it's just beautiful to see desert plants adapt to their conditions with things like this. As soon as I stepped foot on the land, I knew it was going to be a battle against nature. The wind was reaching 40 miles per hour. The rain was non-stop for hours, and it was extremely cold, making it one of the worst days that I've been on the land. However, when I started observing all of the green, all of my gratitude came back. I started to find so many of the grass and the wildflower seeds that I planted a month prior, all starting to really sprout and take form. And it made me really reflect on how some of the greatest things that we get to experience come on the other side of struggle. Now it's time to start planting. Now, when you see me clapping, just know that that was for my own self and for my own motivation, because I'll be honest with you, it wasn't easy being out there. The wind was constantly blowing me and my things over. It was blowing sand in my face. It was extremely cold, rainy. My hands were numb, you name it. It went wrong. This was a day that really tested me. And although a part of me wanted to call it quits and just head back home, a grand part of me wanted to stay and get the job done. I had all the materials that I wanted. I've been wanting to plant in these structures that I created months ago, and now is the time, especially with the water that we're going to be getting from this weather. One in the ground is the woolly blue curls, which is an interesting name. This is not native to this exact area. It is more over the mountains, closer to the coast of Southern California, but there have been a few spotted in my region. So I used that and I said, okay, I'll expand the range a little bit. If it dies, it dies. It is okay. It is more so an experimental plant and one that is going to attract pollinators this summer. And the one thing that I'm going to use is coverage, because as you can see, the wind is going absolutely nuts, but in the box, nothing is moving. It is perfectly still. This is the power of just covering the space and providing windbreak. And when I thought it was going to be easy, nature had other plans. So I had to stop what I was doing and bury this box so that I can help contain this plant and save it from these winds. Realize is that I need to dig deeper so that these plants are way below the ground level. And when that happened, it revealed what is really going on with the land. I dug so deep that I found dry soil. But just before that, I found moist soil. So what is going on? Well, you are seeing the lack of penetration in real time. You are seeing the discoloration at the very bottom, that is the dry sand, and then all of this darker color soil is where the water is actually sitting. So if I really want to absorb this water that is falling on the land, I'm going to have to dig even deeper. Before I could put these plants in, I made sure to grab some of my own garden scraps so that they can serve as nitrogen into the soil. They also are holding together this mound that I will be creating to serve as windbreak for the plants. And after all the digging, it was at this point that I started to feel my body and the effects of the wind and all of the shoveling. But we have to keep going because I already started. It turned out to be a capital I instead of this T shaped. I added another bar at the bottom so that all of the plants can go in this capital I in the ground. Some might think that's entirely too close, but I want to tell you that is the point. Because there is such harsh conditions out here, I am putting the plants in a position to protect each other, provide windbreak for each other, shade for each other. And none of them are invasive. None of them are going to be choking each other out. Now, I will say that the poppies, even though they look delicate, they are actually quite aggressive from what I've read. And of course, we have to have the offering to the lands, the maíz, and also an offering to the worms. But the poppies actually spread through their rhizomes, through their roots, and they have been reported to get really aggressive and pop up 10 or 20 feet away from the original plant. So it reminds me of somebody, the ones in the background, the creosote bushes. And so if we can have this beautiful flower be aggressive and really spread across the land, it attracts pollinators. It's going to be dropping leaves and providing mulch. Well, then I am for it, especially in this barren environment with little biodiversity when it comes to the plants. The rest of these that I planted are going to be spread by their seeds. by the birds, etc. And can we give props to this plant for surviving when the roots looked like this? Now, one of the main things I'm focusing on is getting compost down there, because as you saw when I dug the hole, there is no organic matter. There are no dead sticks, leaves, absolutely nothing but just rocks and broken down granite. And after I put everything into the ground, that is when I really started to work on this mound, on this little mountain that will be providing the windbreak for the plants. As time went on, the weather got worse, the wind got stronger, and it was blowing over my phone. And so sadly, I wasn't able to capture a final product, a final view of what it looked like. You are just gonna have to tune in to the next episode of the Project Oasis playlist. If projects like these are inspiring you to take action, then let me know in the comments down below. And I want you to enjoy this bird escort that we had on the way out of the lands while you choose which episode you're gonna tune into to catch up to this point.